Hello, everyone, and welcome to our July San Francisco Products That Count webinar, where we are going to delve into the intricacies and demystify all of the complexity of how you craft a standout resume for your next product role. And if you're a non-product person that just came here to get some hot tips too, that's perfectly okay. I'm sure what Keren is going to share with you is going to be really relevant to you as well. But before we jump into all of that, I want to share a few fun facts about Products That Count, because this is truly an incredible community to leverage. So first and foremost, this is a community of over 500,000 product managers reached. And I know it reaches many individuals well beyond even product managers. I've personally seen many a designer that I know in here and folks in different functions. So all members of the product development community or product delivery community are certainly welcome, but certainly a lot of product managers in here. The other thing I want to highlight is really the content. We've got incredible videos, podcasts, articles. They can be found on our website, and then you can go all the way through our website to the YouTube channel, How to Product, where all of the content like this session today, I'm sure somebody's going to ask me the question, is today's session recorded? It's absolutely recorded, and it can be found there alongside all of this other amazing content. And a lot of this content is authored by C-level executives, like the executive that we have here for you today, as well as other VP product leaders or senior folks in product. And so in general, what I'd love to say is that if you're looking for information on a particular topic, then please start the Product That Count website and check out that How to Product YouTube channel, because I'm sure that out of either of those two places, you're going to get an expert's take on that particular topic. Now, a quick bit about me before we dive into today's content. So my name is Denise Hemke. I've been a part of the Products That Count community for about 1.5 years now. And outside of my role here at Products That Count, I am the Chief Product Officer at NeoGov. If you don't know NeoGov, we provide a robust HR and public safety platform for government entities. So we've really purpose-built for the government sector so that it's easy to use to manage their people, to manage their policies, all of the things that they need to do, and it's designed specifically for their needs. Now, you're not here for me, you're really here for Keren in the main event, so let's shift to that. So our speaker today, Keren Boiman, is the CEO and co-founder of Bullseye. And that is a new product out on the market, and Keren's going to talk to you a little bit about that here in a moment, that really helps to revolutionize the job search process. And she's got a lot of research to back this, so that's really incredible. Keren has a range of experiences from startups, like this one that she has started, to others, to large multinational companies. And with this wealth of experience, Keren has also supplemented that with an MBA from Santa Clara University, where she conducted a lot of research on how do you use technology to streamline the job search. And I think that's really where her passion began, and some of my discussions with her. And again, I'm sure she'll tell you more here in just a moment. And at Bullseye, she is, the founder, the co-founder and CEO, and really her mission is to dismantle the barriers in the job market. This offers tailored tools and resources to ensure more equitable professional growth for everyone, and to really help all of you land that role that you are looking for. So in today's session, she's going to talk about essential topics, including the difference between generalized and targeted job searches, and how to assess fit, and then some tips and tricks on really how to make your resume stand out. So I think there's a ton of amazing content in here for you today. And I want to remind you to stay to the end, because Keren's going to talk to you for the first half of this. And then in the back half of this session, it is open Q&A to ask this expert, Keren, all the questions that are top of mind for you. So how are we going to do that? Use that Zoom Q&A. So the Q&A along that bottom ribbon in the Zoom application, and you'll post your questions there. Please don't hesitate to post, start posting throughout. And then I will field those to Keren here at the end. So with that, I'm really excited to have you all here. I'm really excited to have Keren. Keren, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Denise. Guys, I'm so excited. It's my first time with products that count. I'm so excited and happy that Denise reached out to me and that I can provide value to all of you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you see this?
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. So a little bit about Bullseye, a little bit about me. As Denise mentioned, my background is EE and also MBA from Santa Clara University. I have 20 years of experience in tech overall in program management and operations in different capacities. I headed the program management office at Intel AI. I'm based here in Santa Clara, California, and also served as director of program management at another AI chip company startup here in the Bay Area, SEMA AI. But what got me into this is when I moved to the States about 10 years ago, I was already an engineer. I had 10 years of experience, and it still took me a good 6-7 months to land a job. It was very frustrating. I wasn't even ready for this. I thought it would be like a no-brainer thing. It turned out to be quite a journey and a challenge. And that's what got me so intrigued to research this throughout my MBA. That's what I dedicated my MBA research to learn. So how come, why is this so inefficient? Why is it so hard? Why is everything so manual? Both on the job seeker side, but also on the employers, there's a lot of inefficiency that we revealed. And then, I discovered, okay, so how can technology actually help with this and ease the pain in many ways? My co-founder, Oren, to this journey is also my spouse. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's built an AI video company in the past, which was VC backed, grew to 100 million users and later acquired by Vimeo. He's a PhD in computer science and AI. And he's my technical partner in building all of this. So let's just dive quickly into the agenda, what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to talk about the research that we've done. We've done extensive research, even without, without even writing the first line of code. Researched tens of recruiters and hiring managers and came up with a few findings that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to talk about the philosophy toward targeted and strategic job search, understanding what the job fit for a specific role, what does that actually entail, how to tailor a resume, what is a good and not so good resume template and a structure, and I'll sprinkle that with a few examples. And as Denise mentioned, please go ahead. I'd like this to be interactive chat. Feel free to stop me with questions as I go, so you don't have to save everything up until the end. So I'll jump right into this. First finding I thought I would share with you guys is that recruiters, I'm sure you've heard those numbers, spend about 10-12 seconds on your resume before they decide if it's a good fit or not. So this brings me to how important it is to have the resume speak loud for you in a way that it communicates how you meet the basic qualifications, but also how you meet the preferred qualifications. Many times you see on job descriptions, we have basic and preferred. The preferred are essentially your bonus points. This is how you go above and beyond what the role entails. And this is how you qualify yourself also against other candidates. So you try to have the resume be very strategic and succinct and clear in meeting those qualifications. Also, and we'll talk about it, try to put as much as you can quantified achievements versus just generalized statements. I did this or I did that. And I'll give examples on that. So our goal here is to talk about more moving away from the spray and pray approach, which we don't believe in, and that we think it's not only not productive, but also having some mental toll to the applicant themselves applying for hundreds of jobs. We advocate and we also provide a tool to perform the job search much more strategically and accurate. And we believe, and we have results for that, to show that this is actually what brings results. So as I was talking about quality versus quantity, conducting a job fit analysis, not just, skimming through the title, using a simple resume template, which I'll show example, having a tailored resume. Yes, and I know that it's tedious for each job description, and using the STAR methodology or the STAR approach, which is the quantified way of showcasing of highlighting your achievements for the role, for a specific role. Any questions that I can answer so far?
There are some, but I'd say, Karen, keep going and let's come back because I think you're going to touch on some of these.
Yes. Okay, great. So, when we talk about job fit, why does that even matter? Why can't I just, apply, I take my generic resume and I apply and whatever comes back? So as we've seen, many researchers on this topic have seen that even slightly meeting 60% versus 50% of the job requirements doubles your chances to be invited for an interview. So, and we've talked with recruiters, you see, they get hundreds of applications, and what they say is that they see, once they start going over that, is that they feel that 80% of the applicants are completely irrelevant, asking like, has this person ever read the job description? That's how irrelevant most of the applications are. And many times, we are a good applicant, but the resume is not doing a good job in saying that, in communicating that. So let's see what a job fit analysis actually is, now that we know that it's crucial. I show you an example of how to do this manually. On the left-hand side, you see a job description requirements. This is for a software developer, entry-level role, and then the qualifications on the next column. And then there is a quantified way of saying, do I match or don't match these requirements for each one of them? And then I give myself a score. I score myself. So this is an example of a software developer entry level. Let's look at this from a program manager perspective, like a program manager role. So this role talks about 10 years of program management experience, proven track record in complex products, PMP certificate, and budget management, and so on. So then I put my qualifications on the next column. I say I have 8 years of experience in project coordination, manage multi-million-dollar so-and-so. I have a certified PMP, and I assisted with budget oversight, but I did not directly manage this. And so then I score myself. I say, is this like a full match? Do I fully meet the requirement or partially? And then for this one, for example, since I have 8, I'm partially meeting it. And some of them I fully matched, so I'm giving myself a score. Eventually, I sum up the entire score on the right-hand side, and then I get to like an 80% of a fit overall. This is a more of a, data-driven way of actually coming up with a score of a fit for myself. And then that's 80% of a fit. That's good. We recommend applying what's a good fit. We recommend applying with 70% and above. But in terms of meeting the basic qualifications, remember, there are basic qualifications and preferred. You have to meet at least 70% of the basic qualifications to be a good match for this one and to go ahead and apply. If you see when you run the job fit analysis that the resume is not talking about this, go ahead, add the relevant information and rerun the job fit analysis. And if you see a higher score, higher than a 70, go ahead and apply. But this exercise, the basics of it is helping you identify gaps. Identify the gaps in terms of what my resume says versus what the employer wants. And if you look into each and every requirement, like I've done this for technical program management roles, the title may say the same, but the devil's in the details. And you'll see that many times I'm not getting even to a 70% of a fit because they want different things. The employer wants different things. Okay, let's talk about, we understand now that, yeah, I need a good fit to go ahead and apply, not just apply to anything I see. What is a good or not so good resume template? And what are ATSs? ATSs are applicant tracking systems. These are the containers on the other side, on the employer side, whereas where you apply, The application itself goes into applicant tracking systems. I'm sure many people have heard of that. And what the applicant tracking systems do is they mainly parse your resume as a first start. Yes, your original document is saved there, but they parse the resume, extracting your contact details, your LinkedIn, your email, and so on and so forth. But what happens many times is that folks who use complex templates, complex structures like these ones, either table-based, column-based, design elements, photos, tables, or anything more complex than this, the parsing of the ATS is struggling. And it ends up, the way it reads resumes is left to right, top to bottom. And the way it can read a resume like this is it will mess up the entire information. It will not be able to extract the information correctly. And I've seen that happen so many times, and people don't even know about this because, you know, your resume is there, but someone actually needs to click it. And the information is completely messed up on their side. So you never hear back and you don't know why. Many times it's because of your resume template. What we recommend is using a very simplistic resume template. And you can find that on our website to download. It's got a summary statements, which it was always needs to be tailored for this role that I'm looking for, that I'm applying for, a section of skills, and it's not a laundry list of skills. It's very few. It's got an experience section, education, projects, volunteering. Volunteering is completely optional. You don't have to talk about it if it's not specifically related to the job that you're applying for. So we really recommend using a simplistic template. Either PDF or DocX both work, just not the more complex one. And just this morning, I saw another person who struggled with this, and not even knowing that the system is not parsing their resume correctly. So then, okay, you understand that there needs to be a good fit. You got a simplistic template for the resume. How do we tailor each one of the sections on the resume itself? So first off, the summary section, and I'll give an example of how this works. An ideal length of that would be 1 to 3 sentences of up to 70 words, very active language, and using a confident tone like proficient, skilled, accomplished, leading so-and-so, and talk about this in first person implicit, meaning avoid using the word I did this, I did that. You talk of yourself in a first person implicit, and I'll give an example of what that means. So this is the elements from the job description that I picked out. They want along the lines of job title and work experience. They want 10 years of program management. We've seen that role before in a technology-driven industry. They want fast-paced, innovative software development, SaaS products, advanced degree in business, computer science, so on, PMP, that program management certification, areas of expertise. They want strong track record in large-scale software development projects, agile, and so on. So my tailored summary for such a position, for such a job description would be, that's just an example, it would consolidate those elements that I pick up from the job description: an experienced program manager, 8 years of experience, fast-paced companies, so and so. This is how I would position myself. And if you look across different job descriptions, you'd see you have to position yourself differently. For example, I have program management, but also operations component to my experience. So I would position myself very differently for each role. In this one, they're interested in SaaS products. That's what you'd highlight. They want the bachelor's degree. They want the PMP. So these are important skills to emphasize. Now, say the skills section, you would pick, again, I was saying not a laundry list of things. You would identify key skills from the job description, such as you see here on the example. This is for a UX designer, and choose the skills to highlight in your tailored resume, picking the skills with the best fit for the role, and grouping similar skills together and ordering the skills list. this would work, this would look like this. Not more than 7, 8 skills on the resume. Again, I've seen people who, again, it's like a laundry list of skills, and it's like as if I'm asking the recruiter or the hiring manager, you pick what's relevant. No, the tailoring part is my responsibility. I have to look what the job description is talking about, and yes, that takes time and is manual and tedious, but this is, I don't want them to get lost in the details. I want to provide a concise and a very solid, crisp communication of why they should pick me for getting me to the phone screen, to the interview, to the next stage. So that's an example, deciding on the format. Now, then I go to the experience section. You try to make each and every bullet, not all of them, but try to make most of them following the STAR methodology. Now, the STAR methodology talks about situation, the task, the action, and the results. And it puts a good emphasis on results, essentially not what I have done, but what my actions or activities, how were they driving quantified achievements? For example, I always get asked these questions because we are having, many times hard time imagining in numbers what we were able to accomplish. So for example, reducing bug throughput time or bug resolution time by 30%. Or if I'm a program manager and it's all about driving predictability to deliverables and so on, I can talk about the fact that my cross-functionality leadership reduced the overall life cycle by 10%, or saved X amount of money, or I, initiated agile methodology implementation, saving XYZ. So these are kinds of like along these lines, you should be thinking about, okay, I've done this, but how is that contributed to the bottom line of my department, of my group, of my organization, so on. These are examples that may help you think along the lines of either time saving, budget saving, boosting sales volume, getting more traffic, lead generation, critical funding shortfall, renegotiation. These are all examples of the STAR or the PSR, problem solution result, focusing on the results and quantifying the results as much as we can. Not every bullet point has to be along these lines, but you try to sprinkle here and there because it gives the reader, the person, the recruiter, and the hiring manager, the hiring team, a sense of what is this person capable of? Okay, what is the scope and responsibility? How are they directly able to deliver value to the problem that we're trying to solve here? I'll touch a bit about, I have like a few more minutes. I'll touch a bit about age proofing. I don't know how many people this is relevant for in this conversation. When we talked with recruiters, and they mentioned in hiring managers, they're focusing on the 10, 12 most recent years of experience that you have. So if I take a 2-pager resume and I start talking about things that I've done 15, 20 years ago, this is, I'm not doing good service to myself. They do have to be mentioned, things I've done, 15, 20 years ago, but only by the title, like the company name and the title I held there. Not going into too much detail, or not going into detail at all about what I've done there, what was my set of responsibilities, and so on. All of that information, all of that background and my entire experience is communicated through the summary, if you recall the summary section on the top, and the skills that I pick out. But in terms of taking up real estate space of the resume, I will focus the rest of the space on the 10, 12 recent years of experience that I have. Another element that's important to note, to think about, is you don't want to have outdated email addresses. what are outdated email addresses, and you know, that kind of gives away age or years of experience, and we don't want to do that. I don't want to use emails like Hotmail, Yahoo, things like that. I hope nobody gets offended on this call, but try to use, you know, Gmail, things that are more modern email addresses. And obviously use language that is very relevant to how terminology in your space, in your domain, is being communicated today. So those are a few tips on age-proofing a resume. A resume should never go beyond 2 pages, no matter, I have like 30 years of experience, never go beyond 2 pages. If you have up to 5, 6 years of experience, that should be a single page. Anything beyond like 5, 6, 7 years to 20 plus, it's always 2 pages, not more than that. Okay, so I'll talk a bit about Bullseye. We developed a product that essentially everything I mentioned here that you are welcome to read more about on our blog, and it has a lot of detail how to do everything manually. Bullseye does this for you automatically. You plug in a job description and your resume, and it goes the entire job fit analysis, provides you a score, and converses with you to add more information on the identified gaps. We've helped hundreds of job seekers, and we're going to help you guys as well. Today, we're going to provide a free trial for everyone on the call. We've seen very high engagement with the tool. And what's most thrilling about it is we see that approach of applying to things that are very accurate matches for your background and experience is actually working. Because 29% of the folks using this extensively have been actively interviewing within 1 month or less of using Bullseye, and directly link that to the tool. And any questions?
Our
can
question.
answer. Yes.
All right. So, Karen, maybe the first question for you is, what are your thoughts on cover letters? Do they give you a leg up when applying for a job?
Yeah, that's I know writing, you know, after you've spent so much time on the resume, getting to the cover letter is even more tedious and frustrating, right? Cover letters, we taught when we interviewed recruiters and hiring managers, about 50% of them read the cover letters. But you never know who's on the other side. Is this application, is this recruiter or hiring manager going to read this or not? What we recommend is, if it's mandatory to add a cover letter on the application, obviously you have to do that. But you try to make this very succinct and clear. Do not repeat what the resume is already communicating. Try to focus on your soft skills there, and also on the cultural fit that you see with the company. Like, why are you passionate about this company or about this role, and the cultural fit. Those are the 2 things that to focus on. And you don't want to make it even 1 page long. It should be a very short, single paragraph, maybe even like 2 bullet points, something that I can read in like, 15 seconds less, right? That's the kind of cover letter you'd want to write.
I love that. I think when you and I talked, I think that was something that kind of struck me, was the fact that, to your point, like the culture piece can't really come through necessarily in the resume. And so I love that tip to focus on the culture fit there. Kind of a follow-up one related to that is, do you have any insight if the applicant tracking system takes in the cover letter as well? And is that scored in any particular way?
If the ATS is parsing the cover letter, no, it's not parsing to my best knowledge, it's not parsing the cover letter. No.
All right. I know you said focus on tailoring your skills. This individual said, I've been told by multiple recruiters to remove the skills section of the resume. And then, so I guess, would you suggest everybody has skills? Should they all keep that in there? Or should they remove it? Is there anything in your research, that kind of backs up any of this?
Yeah, so the template that I showed before, we have vetted this with about 30 recruiters and hiring managers. So we took that, we took their feedback, created this template, and then went back to them and asked them. So what they say is that they do prefer to have the summary and the skills. This is where we talked about 10 seconds they have in terms of looking at the resume. This is where the focus of attention would go to. So many times what people do is they have a skill section, but it's very all encompassing. Try to kind of attach all, where it shouldn't be like that. It should be very, 6, 7 skills in 2 columns, not take up too much space. Something that helps me understand very quickly if there's a good fit, who this person is, but not going into laundry list of skills, not go about that way. Be very targeted and strategic in what you mention. Yeah.
I love that. Customize it, be intentional. That's going to drive for the best results.
Yes.
Follow up in terms of one of the other things that you flagged. You said, hey, quantify achievements, right? Use that STAR methodology whenever possible. What if you don't have necessarily quantifiable achievements? What would you recommend for somebody in that type of a scenario?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's really a mind exercise, because many times you do have that, but you're not thinking of this in the right terms. So try to think if, how I'll give the same examples, but how were my activities? I spent like a year, 2 years at the company. How was I able to either shortcut processes, introduce new methodologies? They all had an intent. They were serving a point. Maybe I'm trying to generate more leads. I'm trying to build traffic. I'm trying to increase sales. I'm upping the conversion rates of a product. I'm increasing the reach to customers, to businesses. I'm adding a new product line. It's not about, I'll give an example of what it's not. And I've heard that from software developers, for example. They think of quantifying achievements as, or someone brought it up, as the number of lines of code written. So this is not a quantified achievement per se. Say, for example, from a software perspective, it would mean like if whatever methodology I implemented was able to reduce bug resolution time from whatever 5 days to 2 days, that's a huge achievement. That's productivity, that's efficiency. So that's something to talk about, but not the number of lines of code. That's not really, it's not going to help to understand your value.
Yeah. When you and I were talking about that, I read a resume recently that was the number of user stories that a product manager has written. And I love that you all write user stories. That is absolutely part of the job. But similar to the lines of code, the number of user stories is not the quantifiable. Talk to me about the monthly active users that you've increased, reduction in churn, now you could talk to me about the number of, customer ideas, generated ideas that you were able to execute on, right? Because it shows customer centricity. But I think your point is, how am I providing value? And so stay away from some of those, this is just the job kind of metrics that's not actually having an impact on the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good examples on the product management front. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I've seen the great and some that I would love to give them some resume advice. All right. So going back, just a quick follow-up question in terms of that cover letter. It's a hot topic. They asked about that 50%. Do you see that gravitating towards particular company sizes or industries? Like, is it that people of, larger companies, for example, might gravitate towards preferring a cover letter? Any affinity
Yeah,
there?
that's a good point. I see at least in the application process that bigger company, medium and bigger companies ask for cover letters much more than startups. Startups, they for the most part that I've seen are not asking for a cover letter. Yeah.
They just don't have time.
Their processes are much leaner. Yes. And again, you've seen, like, I think over time, cover letters are gonna be less and less centric to the application process. We're hoping that the engagement between the candidate and the employer is gonna be much deeper, and will not rely on how well, I'm able to write a resume, but really the match is going to be done using better technologies. So again, moving away from, writing documents into a much more deeper match of approach. I still think that a cover letter is important. Many times people use that to talk about career gaps that they may have, and it's hard to address them. I didn't touch upon this. I didn't have time to talk about this, but career gaps is one thing you might want to address in a cover letter. And that's a good place to just mention that in a single line. Again, not go into too much detail, but it can serve, even though it's like optional or demanded by the employer, it can serve a purpose from your perspective as well. Yeah.
Could you give an example on that? Like when you say don't go into a ton of detail, like maybe I'm a parent and I took some time off, or this is a tough job market. And I know even somebody in the chat, the start of it kind of said, hey, they've been looking for a little while now. And so there's, this period of time simply because maybe you just haven't been able to find the right opportunity. What's language that you might recommend in terms of either of those scenarios?
Yeah, I would recommend try to think of that career break that you've taken, even if it's a longer job search period, as and you have to actively be doing this as a part of your job search, upskilling. So yes, it took me whatever X months to find a job, but at the same time, I was adding certifications, identifying new areas of expertise that I wanted to invest my time in, networking, opening new opportunities, things of that nature. So I would, again, put just a single line item talking about upskilling opportunities or things that you've pursued throughout that time. And again, it's okay to say, like you took some time off for parenting. It's still okay, right? Recruiters, hiring managers are very open to that. And I want you guys to know that the person on the other end, employers, right? Recruiters and hiring managers, they know it's a tough market. We're humans. They know it's a tough market. They know it's hard and it takes much longer finding a job now. And there's much more, people are completely willing, like accepting this. So don't be so startled. Yes, it's a tough market. Hopefully it will improve soon, but it's completely acceptable. The fact that it's taking whatever number of months. You want to show that still within that time, you were proactive, you were engaged, you were learning. Okay, that's important. And it's not only the resume. The resume is just the first part of it. The interview, the phone screen, all of this has to come with, how you've been proactive about it, what you've been doing about it. Yes, I identified XYZ areas I wanted to deepen my knowledge. I took whatever XYZ courses, webinars. It doesn't have to be paid. It can be online. It can be, but it's the approach, it's the attitude. That's important as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because frankly, that's what we want when we hire somebody. We want somebody with a growth mindset. We want somebody that's resilient, that will not give up in the face of challenges. And so having that same mentality in your job search process. And then I love the other thing that you kind of highlighted is like, give yourself a little bit of grace. It is tough out there. And I think we all recognize it's tough out there right now.
Right.
No, it's excellent. But you mentioned a moment ago, you talked about relationships with hiring managers, that type of thing. And there's a question here that says, I've been advised that trying to try to contact the hiring managers directly instead of going through the career portal can work better. What are your thoughts on this as a methodology?
Yes, I completely agree. Many times I think in smaller companies, this may work better than in larger companies, but it's always worth giving it a try. Again, you see many jobs today are, filled with hundreds of applicants within the same day or 48 hours. They are flooded with applications. And many times reaching out directly to the hiring manager or the recruiter is a way to put yourself, put your best foot forward, get yourself noticed. So what we recommend to folks is that obviously conducting, the job fit analysis using Bullseye to cut time into a tailored resume and understanding the fit, all that. But also go on job boards and when you're looking for jobs, always filter for the jobs that were posted 24, 48 hours ago. So combining these two approaches, one is applying to things that were just posted. Don't wait for a referral. If you have a referral, that's still okay, but go ahead and apply and use the targeted approach, meaning make sure it's a good fit and make sure it's a tailored resume. So combining these two approaches, which is the targeted approach, but also the timing component together, is really important in such economy.
Recent and relevant.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the big takeaway I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I can't tell you how, as a hiring manager, how true that is, where all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, you've got all these resumes and it's a needle in the haystack. So
Exactly.
trying to get in, well, the haystack is not too big.
Yeah.
There was a follow-up question to something that you referenced earlier. You talked about soft skills and kind of highlighting some of your soft skills maybe in the cover letter. This individual is saying, well, what are soft skills? Like I hear different definitions. So what are those things that you might suggest highlighting there?
Yeah, so there is, again, I will point you to our blog, which has like so much information. What are soft skills? How can I use them? How can I put them to work for me in the job search and in the interviews? But I'll just say that, we are going, ever since COVID, we're more and more remote and virtual. And employers today are looking for soft skills more than ever in folks, right? And what that actually means is leading with influence, not with not necessarily through authority, like I'm managing this person, so that person will do as I say, but leading with influence. Also leadership skills that always comes as a very important soft skills, and communication skills, presentation skills, both verbal and written communication skills is ever so important. Those are the few things that I would highlight. Collaboration, being a team player, thinking of like what's good for the company, for my group, not necessarily for me. Negotiation skills. You think, I need negotiation skills if I'm a salesperson. No, you need negotiation skills across the board. As a project manager, you're always negotiating. Even as a product manager, you're always negotiating, right? You want X, but you get Y. How do you bridge the gap? So these are all very important skills to mention and to put them to work. Yeah, that's what I would mention. That's what I've seen in scanning many job descriptions. Those few soft skills are very common in what employers are looking for.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Anybody who's a platform product manager in this session definitely knows that you better have some good negotiation skills to get your feature on somebody else's roadmap. All right, another follow-on question. Can you suggest a good approach to present basic qualifications versus desired qualifications? Or maybe should you even focus on those desired qualifications as you're going through that activity of maybe tailoring your resume?
An approach of how to mention them. First, yeah. So you want to make sure that I mean, it's not very useful to show that you're meeting the preferred qualifications if you're not meeting the basics. So again, the 10 seconds that a recruiter scans your resume, what they're doing is they're mentally scanning the job description and looking for that in your resume. So I didn't even talk about this, but the order in which the requirements are mentioned is the importance to the employer. So the most important requirement would always come first, like X number of years of experience, whatever degree, and so on. And then later on, all of the other basic requirements, and then the preferred. So you would want to match the importance, what the employer wants in my resume. So I would focus first on the basics and then put the preferred. That's how you'd position it.
That's a really good tip as well. So that maybe that goes back to also if you're highlighting things either in that summary section or in the cover letter, like focus sequentially in order, right? If it's in priority order and you've got limited real estate.
Right.
No, that's a great, I think it's obvious, but probably not something that we often think about. All right. So what if a company takes one version of a resume you might be applying to for multiple roles for different skills? Any tips on how to improve kind of the resume matching ability or the fit for that type of a scenario?
So you're saying you're applying to multiple roles in a company
I don't know if
with a single resume, you mean?
I think that's how I'm interpreting this, or maybe as a flip side, as a hiring manager, I know I do this. I like to say I'm team hiring, right? So I'll look at a resume, and if that's not a fit for this role, I will think about other roles that I have. But if you don't have a broad portfolio like I do, maybe you're just an individual manager, maybe you don't have that luxury or you don't have that purview. But I think people who are hiring lots of individuals might take that mindset.
Yeah. I think again, our entire approach is to tailor the application or the resume for each role. So it's hard. So it's essentially asking, like, how can I generalize my resume to be a catch-all, which is something that I don't advocate for. It kind of beats the purpose. So I would, to my best understanding, maybe you target 2 roles or not more than that, but try to make sure they have a lot of commonality. So maybe you want to collapse both the requirements from one position and another and make something that is more, but the more generalized you make it, the less specific it is, and then it's not driving value to the other side. So that's a trade-off you'd have to make.
Yeah, I think it's back to if you want to hit the 70% for this role, then you need it to be specific, and therefore you don't want to overgeneralize it. And the person said, exactly, thank you. So yeah, I think you nailed it. I know we've got a couple more minutes for questions. So for those of you who maybe have some burning questions, please get them in now. Yeah, one of them is talking about resume length, and I think you covered that. 2 pages is where we should stop. And
Correct.
let's see. Any last questions? I'll ask you a couple follow-up. So if somebody hasn't been getting kind of the results that they're looking for, and hopefully using all these approaches, things change. But do you, in all your research, have you kind of heard anything on, how to handle rejection or seek feedback for from the potential employer to improve those future applications? Anything on that kind of follow-up side of things?
So how to handle
Rejection, number one.
rejections?
And number two, like, how might you kind of seek feedback and use that to tune?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Wasn't planning on talking about this, obviously, but it is a part. It's an integral part of the job search, right? I would say it's very natural to not feel comfortable in rejection. It takes faith, job search, but also I strongly believe in the targeted approach. What I've seen, at least with users of Bullseye, what they said is that it gave them another level of emotional comfort. Why? Because they applied for roles that they know that they're a good fit. So whatever happens from this point on is outside of my control. But I know that I applied, no matter if you do this with Bullseye or manually, you know that you applied to something that you're a good fit for. I'm not just throwing my resume all over the place. No, it comes from like more I'm in control attitude. Now, okay, that doesn't help you. You still got rejected. But it kind of it's very different than what I'm seeing, what I'm reading on Reddit. If you read that, people talk about, hey, I have applied to 400 jobs in the past whatever weeks. It's talking weeks. And I've heard from 2, meaning like almost 400 rejected me. So that's something that it's like, it's kind of dialing this back to you as if something is wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you. You just applied to maybe 90% of things that are completely irrelevant for your background and experience. So that's what I'm saying. The spray and pray approach, it may be easy or like hitting the easy apply button, but it actually takes a toll on you. And that we don't recommend that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. One last question, and this question was, I think, perfectly teed up by your last answer. Somebody said, Keren, what's the value proposition for your software? And I think you talked about it a little bit there, but maybe talk for a minute about what it does. And then I know that you've got a promo code to throw into the chat too, so I don't want to forget that.
Yeah. The value proposition for the product is essentially helping you make the job search very accurate, and through the accuracy part, very rapid. And that's what I was talking about in terms of seeing results previously. We've seen that other tools out there in the market, they may, provide you with suggestions like plug in this keyword, plug in that keyword, but essentially it's still putting all the burden on you and whatever you can do manually within a limited amount of time, whatever it is that you have. Not much, even if you're working, right? So what Bullseye does is it helps you, one, decipher what is even valuable for me to invest my time in. Where is a good fit? That's quickly in seconds, right? Where should I even spend my time on applying? And then in seconds, generate a tailored application and apply. So as I was saying before, combining those 2 elements of like going and applying for things that are fresh, for positions that just came out to the market, and using Bullseye for rapidly understanding what's a good fit and here's a tailored resume, combining these two factors is what got people, you know, first in line and very accurate, and that's what got them the interview. That's what we've seen, and that's the value proposition. And thank you. That's a good question.
Yeah, yeah. That is incredible. Well, I would definitely want you to put that link and promo code in here into the chat if you don't mind.
Sure. Let me quickly put it here. And also, you guys, happy to connect on LinkedIn as well, and with any follow-up questions. Should I put it in the chat?
Straight in the webinar chat would be amazing. So on that bottom banner, and just make sure it goes to everyone.
Yes, and if you have any questions or if you have anything to ask, yeah, you see that.
Perfect. So you now have Keren's email address.
Yeah.
You've got the link to Bullseye.
Please don't spam.
Please. And you've got the access code. So that is truly incredible. But I think, you know, your product sounds amazing. It's going to hopefully help all these folks get to the front of the line. And as you said, that really matters. But I think, you know, the thing that I really appreciate, Keren, is how much time you invested in this community today to give them more tools in their toolbox, to really arm them better for this job market that we're in. And this isn't going to change, right? It's only going to continue. I heard somebody say one of the greatest skills these days is going to be org design as AI continues to sort of disrupt how we work. And so I think the things that you shared with us today are things that we can all take with us from here forward.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again. I hope this was beneficial. Yeah.
No, it was amazing. So thank you so much. You're getting kudos in the chat. That indicates how valuable it was. Thanks for spending time with us. And thanks to all of you that joined live today and are watching this on playback. See you next month.